Hey, hi friends, very good morning. Sorry first of all for being late. As we discussed, we are going to see the physical standby database configuration today. So how we are going to create a standby database. So for that, we are going to follow the steps, whatever is mentioned in this document. So I have taken two machines, one is called as machine 1, and here I have a database up and running by the name ProdDB. Of course, right now it is down. So for this ProdDB database, we are going to create a standby database in another server, that is machine 2. To differentiate between these two machines, I have taken machine 2 putty session with white color background. So now my database is up. So we are going to follow some steps in order to perform this. So this document will help you in order to do that. So there are certain settings that we need to do. As I said, basically this is an arm and cloning only, but there are some settings that we need to initially. So the first one is to check whether the primary database is in archive log mode or not, and which commands need to run on which server I have mentioned here. Of course, this document will be given to you. So first I'm checking whether the primary database is in archive log mode or not. Yes, it is in archive log mode and the archives are being pushing into this particular location. Then we are going to place the database in force logging mode. So what is the reason for this? So the reason for enabling this force logging is there is an option called no logging while performing DML or DTL transactions. And if you issue no logging, Oracle will not generate redo entries. And in data guard environment, that is not, that is not a good idea. The reason is, whatever you do with the primary database, if you are not generating redo entries, then it would be a problem. So it will not be cascaded onto the standby, and standby can never be in sync with primary. So that is the reason we are going to place the database in force logging mode. That is the first step that we are doing. Uh, So I have enabled the force logging, and to verify whether the force logging has been enabled properly or not, we are going to query these two columns from $V database, wherein here you can see it is showing as force logging equals to yes. Then the next few steps are not required if you are configuring a maximum performance mode. But we don't know. Like today, maybe we are configuring maximum performance mode, but down the line after 3 months, if your client asks you to change that to max protection mode or max availability mode, then you require standby redo log files. So that is why what we are doing is now itself we are creating the standby redo log files. So standby redo log files ideally should be created on the standby, but because we don't have a standby database yet, so we are creating the standby redo log files in the primary itself. And when we are going to do a duplicate of the database, then automatically the standby redo log files will be taken to the other side. So first I'm checking how many groups are there in the primary and what are their sizes, because the standby redo log files also we should create with the same size. So here you can see there are three groups with 200 MB each. Then I'm checking the locations of the redo log files. Then I'm going to add the standby redo log groups. So how many groups you have primary, then you Oracle recommends to have an extra group on the standby side. Like in the primary now I am having three groups here. So in standby it is better to have four groups. And while giving the command is pretty same as normal command, only thing is you are going to add this extra clause called standby so that Oracle will understand that you are going to create a standby database. So because already redo groups 1, 2, 3 are there, I am starting with group 4. Then group 6, and as I said, one extra group is always better on the standby side. So just to avoid any delays that are happening, so I'm creating the 7th group as well. So to verify whether how many files or how many groups have been created, we are going to use this particular query where it will show you 3 files as online, means the primary redo log files, and 4 files as the standby redo log files. So then we are going to do some parameter changes. So we are going to do this as the first parameter change. Alter system set log archive config equals to dgconfig, and I am mentioning both my primary database name and standby database name. So here I am taking the standby database name as standDB. So more frankly to say, this is not the database name, this is the instance name. So this is the standby instance name. Standby database name will be proddb only. So what we are doing with this parameter? Basically, we are going to tell to Oracle that from now onwards, these two databases will be in DataGuard configuration. So to give a heads up to Oracle, we are going to use this particular command. Then we need to do some changes to the uh, log archive dest1 parameter. So normally log archive dest1 parameter will have this value. If you are using a different location for your archives rather than flash recovery area. So by default you can see log archive dest1 will show only the location. But now because these are going to the DataGuard environment, we need to do some changes here. So what exactly here I am doing? I am keeping that location thing as it is. I am not changing anything, but I am adding some extra clauses here. So what is these extra clauses? So the first one says valid for all log files and all roles. So yesterday we talked about the switchover activity. So when we perform switchover, primary becomes standby and standby becomes primary. So to tell to Oracle that this database should be ready for any kind of role, we are going to mention this. So when we say all underscore roles here, it means that this database today maybe it is primary, but in future it may become standby. So my database should be ready for that. And also log files. So as just I showed you, these log files, if the database is in primary mode, these log files will be in online mode. Or if the database is in standby mode, then these log files will be working as a standby redo log files. So to tell to Oracle that we are going to use this clause, and then we are going to keep this clause or keep this parameter DB unique name, because as I said, the primary database name and the standby database name will be same. Only thing which comes difference is the instance name. The primary instance name will be different and the standby instance name will be different. So that is how we are going to have the things here. Next, as we know in max performance mode, we are going to send the redo log files. We are going to send the RQ log files to the standby destination. And how we are going to do that? By declaring this particular parameter. So here we are declaring a destination called log archive destination 2, and we are saying service equals to standDB. So here this service equals to standDB is nothing but the TNS entry. So whatever the TNS entry we have for the standby database, so we are going to have the same thing over here. So if you are using a TNS entry with a different name, then obviously here you need to mention a different name. I am using the TNS. I want to use the TNS entry as standDB, so I just mentioned that here. Then we have this parameter. So this two parameters or values doesn't have any significance if you are using a max performance mode, but these two will have some value if you are using a max protection mode and max availability mode. So tomorrow when we are converting this into max protection and max performance, I will explain more about that. So basically, it is like you are going to mention that logerator is going to write. So here when I say logerator, and here I have given the standby database name. So it means that this logerator will go and write into this standby redo log files. So yesterday we saw that architecture. So for that we are going to use these two values. Anyway, as I said, tomorrow I will explain that. Then we have valid for. So this is a standby database, and if you convert this standby database or if you do a switchover of this standby database, then the log files of this standby database will become the primary online log files, and the role of the database also will change from standby to primary. So that is what this clause for, and DB unique name is equals to standDB. So to differentiate between the standby database and the primary database, always we depend on this parameter DB unique name. Then we are declaring file server and file client. So you are already aware of what is file server and file client. So file server, as I said, it will be running on the standby side. So here we have given the standby name, and file client will be running on the primary side. So here I have given primary database name. So anyone having questions till now? Okay, so the next thing that we are doing is, so from here almost all the steps are are main cloning steps. So first we are going to create a P file from the current SP file in your primary. Then you are going to that particular location, $oracle home slash dbs, and from here you are going to do SCP of the files. So you are going to do SCP of P file first, and when you are doing SCP, you are changing the file name here itself. So it is either of your wish, like you can copy with the same name and then you can rename that file there, or while copying itself you can do that. Okay, just give me a moment. Just give me a moment. I am just cleaning the old things. Okay, so here Oracle home location is little bit different. Okay, so now the file has been copied. So once this is done, then we need to copy the password file. So first you need to aware of the password of your primary database, the sys password. So if you are not aware, first recreate your password file and then you can copy that password file here. And again here also, while copying itself, I am changing the name to StanDB. So those are the steps that you are going to do on the primary side. So next thing is you need to configure the listener and TNS entries on both the primary side and the standby side, and also you need to do a TNS ping to verify that TNS entries are working. So first I am checking whether any listener.ri is already there. So there is no listener.ri here, you can see, and here also it might not be there. So here it is there. Okay, so on primary side we don't have it, so let's create one listener. So you can create with the help of netca. I'm creating one listener by the name ProdDB. I'm using the standard port. So here itself now I'm adding the TNS entries as well. So one TNS entry is ProdDB and the host name is, I'm giving the IP address, and second TNS entry I am adding for standby database, and that host name is 113 and I want to maintain the same port number. That's it. But we need to make this listener as the static entry. So by default it will be created with the dynamic registration. So I want to make it as static registration. For that I need to add the SID list. So just give me a moment. So here I have that SID list in our hands-on document. So I'm taking from there and I'm adding it here and do the modifications. So here instead of machine 1 it is better to use the IP address. Then these things remain same and the Oracle home is different. So it is 12.1 Oracle home, but what we are using is 12.2 home. So once it is done, save this file. So we are going to reload the listener because we just performed the changes. So I'm going to stop the listener and I'm going to start the listener. So you just need to make sure that you have this entry that it is listening to the ProdDB database. So same you can do on the standby database as well. So let me connect to the standby database. So using netca I'm going to create a listener. Okay, so it is saying it is already there. Let's go for it and see. Yeah, we have already listener.tora. Okay, so already we have an entry. Let me delete it. So I just want to go with the fresh entry. Let me delete others as well. Okay, so you can do this as well. You can just copy the things from the first one as well. I mean from the primary. So instead of going with the netca, So here itself I can do the changes. Standby database. Then the IP address is 113. I want to go with 1521 as well. Standby database. And change your Oracle home. So yeah, that's it. So we need to do those changes and start your listener. And you need to, again, here also you need to make sure that you are going to have this StanDB. So now both the listeners are up and running, so you need to do a test of the TNS ping. So from both the sides you need to do a TNS ping of ProdDB as well as the StanDB. And same you need to perform. So here you can see both are giving OK messages. So same thing we need to do on the standby side as well. Okay, so sorry, I forgot to add TNS entries here. So that's why it is giving error. Let me open TNS names.ora. So here the ProdDB entry is already there, but the port number is different. And StanDB entry is not there. So I will create one entry here. So it is 113. So let me test it now. So it's working, and StanDB is also working. So both are working now. So once we are done with the configurations, then on the standby side, we need to modify the things in the P file. So on the standby side, I'm going to this Oracle home DBS location. Then I'm going to open the P file and I need to do the modifications. So I'm just removing these parameters which are mentioning as ProdDB dot. Those are not required. Now wherever you see ProdDB, you just need to replace with StanDB, but not everywhere. So only in other places. So you should not change the name in this particular thing, like DB name. So rest except that parameter you can change in other places. So better to be on safe side, I am doing it manually because we have only less number of parameters. So if it is more number of parameters, then you might use that global replacement option. So okay, so again here we don't need to change anything, just keep it as it is. Then here I'm using standby database archive destination. Then I need to change the DB unique name as well. So DB unique name should be standDB. And also, yeah, file server and file client names should be changed, because tomorrow when it turns as primary database, then file server should run on the standby environment, that is prod.db. And also here it will be reversed, even the DB unique name also. So just remember, we are changing the name in audit file destination, then in control file location, both this location as well as this location. Then we are not changing anything with respect to database name. Then again we are changing in DB recovery file destination dispatchers, and we are changing we are reversing the names in file client and file server, and we are changing in log archive destination 1 and destination 2. So these are the changes that we need to do. So once we are done with that, then we need to add 4 parameters to this P file. So the first parameter is DB unique name. So you need to mention DB unique name is equals to standDB. And the second parameter is standby file management. And we are going to use an option called auto. Now what is this standby file management equals to auto? If you are adding a data file on the primary, if you want the same data file to be added on the standby side automatically, then you need to go ahead and you, you need to go ahead and you need to mention this as auto. If you say manual, then whenever you do some structural changes on the primary, like adding a data file, creating a new table space, or creating a new redo log group, whatever you do like this, then you need to do the same on the standby also. And there are a lot of chances that we may forget to do this when we do it in the primary. So better we leave the job to Oracle so that it can do automatically. So for that, we are going to declare this parameter standby file management is equals to auto. Then apart from this, we are going to add 2 more parameters, db file name convert. So if you remember during Arman session, I told you, if the locations are different between your primary database and the standby database, then you are going to choose this. So even one directory name is different, then you need to use these parameters. So in primary, my data files are located under U01 app Oracle or a data prod DB. But in standby, I want to have this in a similar location, but I want to keep it in standby directory. So in such cases, we are going to use that parameter. Similarly, for redo log files also. So these are the 4 parameters that you are going to add to your P file. Oops, sorry. So save this file. Then as a next step, you are going to create the directories at OS level. So whatever the changes that you have done to the standby database P file, you need to create those directories at OS level. So all these steps, if you recollect, are same in ARM and cloning. So mostly it will be four different locations. One is audit destination, then the standby directories, and again in fast recovery area, and then standby archives. So those are the four things that you need to do. Okay, so once it is done, then we are going to start our standby database instance. We don't have any database, but we can just start the instance because we have a P file here. So we are going to just start the instance in the no mount state. So once it is done, once the instance is started, then we are going to connect to the RMN so that we can perform a duplication. So while performing, we are going to, while connecting, we are going to mention the target sys and its password. So our target here is ProdDB database, and auxiliary is nothing but the clone copy, which is nothing but the StanDB database. Because both the database names are same, here if you see target database also it will show the name as ProdDB, and auxiliary database also it will show the name as ProdDB. Then you are going to use this command, duplicate target database for standby from active database, no file name check. So the moment you start it, because in the command itself you have already told that you want to create as a standby database. Normally if you say duplicate target database, it will perform the duplication and it will open the database also, generally in Arm cloning. But here you have specified that you want to use it as a standby database, so that is the reason it won't open the database and it will just keep it in mount state. So it's done. Here you can see it is showing as finished the duplicate. So let us go and see what Oracle has done. So here you can see, as I said, database will be left in mount state because this is a standby database. Now, as you know, from 11G onwards, you have an option to open the standby database in read-only mode. So if you want to go ahead with that, then you can just execute this command, alter database open read-only. Got some error. Okay, so just a moment. Okay, let me first try to do the recovery. So we need to start the MRP process. So you know MRP process is going to apply the archives to the standby environment. So to start the MRP, this is the command we are using. And to cross verify, we can make use of this. Okay, so here you can see MRP is started. So to check the sync between the primary and standby, we are going to use this command, select max sequence number from $log history. Okay, so here you can see the archives are not being applied. Okay, so Whenever you have such kind of situation that archives are not being applied, then you need to go ahead and check in the alert log file. So first, let us check if the archives are being copied or not. So there are two things here. So if the archives are not transferred, then obviously MRP cannot apply it. So first, let us check if the archives are being transferred or not. So I'm just going to the archive destination. No, I'm not seeing any archives being copied here. So here you can see the last file we have is of August. So we don't have any after that. Let us go and see. So because the transfer of the archaeologs itself is not happening, so we need to check in the primary alert log file. Okay, so here we are getting an error saying that could not resolve the connect identifier specified. Okay, so stand EV is there. So there is a trace file. Let me go through the trace file. So basically here it is saying 12154 and it is saying could not resolve the correct identifier specified. Just give me a moment. Okay, so we have only two entries. So most of the times the problem could be either a mistake that we have done here. So service equals to stand db. Need for Okay, so let's do one thing. Everything seems to be fine. So let us try to shut down and restart the standby database, and let us see if that works. So do remember, you need to always start in mount state. So don't just say startup, otherwise it would be a problem. Okay, so somewhere we have something went wrong. So what it is good for us, like anyway, like this is one scenario wherein if we get this in real time, how to resolve this. So we will see tomorrow. So we will keep this problem as it is, and we will try to resolve tomorrow in the first hour. So anyone having
Okay.
questions?
No problem.
Okay then. So thanks everyone for joining. So let's meet tomorrow morning and we'll continue.
Yeah, thanks.